Good morning. It's Thursday, March 10th, 2008. This is On Demand on the Hour. I'm Stephen Humphrey with news briefs and entertainment. Matt McKay has sports headlines and some choice words about the political slapstick of the Olympic torch relay. Today's Spring at Last weather includes mostly sunny periods and a high of 13 degrees Celsius with some rain and a low of 3 tonight. Here are some headlines. The Amalgamated Transit Union Local 113 is holding a press conference this morning which could result in a strike announcement for TTC workers. Mayor David Miller says he will return from a scheduled trip to China if a strike is announced. Obviously, he won't take the bus. Nepal's historic election will end over 2 centuries of rule by monarchy. A 600-seat assembly will run the Himalayan country. Election observers include former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. Ottawa is blocking the sale of tech firm MDA Corp to American weapons company Alliant Tech Systems, Inc. Industry Minister Jim Prentice stated in a letter to the company that the sale would be of no net benefit to Canada. MDA makes Canadarm2 and the space robot Dexter. The Conservative government has not fallen over proposed immigration reforms. An NDP motion to reject changes to the Immigration Act as anti-immigrant was defeated by a wide margin. The changes impose quotas on specialist categories such as doctors. Matt, let's hear some sports.
Thanks, Steve. Lots going on in the world of sports, so let's get right to it. The 2008 National Hockey League playoffs got underway last night. Gary Robert scored 2 goals as the Pittsburgh Penguins defeated the Ottawa Senators 4-0. The Rangers defeated the Devils 4-1 as Scott Gomez had 3 helpers. Joe Sakic scored the overtime winner as Colorado defeated the Minnesota Wild 3-2. And Calgary cooked the Sharks 3-2 thanks to 2 goals from Stefan Yell. Moving over to the hard court. The Raptors broke out of a 3-game skid last night by defeating the Milwaukee Bucks 111-93 at the Air Canada Center. Chris Bosh led the way for the Raps with 32 points and 11 rebounds. Former Raptor Charlie Villanueva counted 38 for the Bucks in a losing effort. And that's it for sports. We're going to go over to a commercial break. Stay with us.
There are 2 things in this world that Brad loves more than anything else.
Hi, I'm Brad.
Karaoke.
Saying I love beer is the understatement of the year.
And beer. And when Brad and his buddies hit the local bar to become rock stars for the night, they drink Molson Canadian.
There's a beer I love. Canadian's the only one. Oh yeah.
Brad doesn't always do a great job, but he sure has a lot of fun.
How do I live without beer? Canadian.
Molson Canadian.
It's close to midnight. Got my Canadian right by my side.
Proud supporter of karaoke dreamers everywhere.
Molson Canadian.
All right, and now to arts and entertainment. Director and actress Sarah Polley and other Canadian film folk are off to Ottawa to protest Bill C-10. The bill lets the government yank tax credits for Canadian films if they're deemed too heavy on violence and sex. The bill is now before the Senate Banking Committee. Polley and others are worried that the threat of losing credits will dampen the spirit of innovation in Canadian film. Heritage Minister José Werner has invited film ministry people to help draft guidelines for the policy. A double-bill music tribute is scheduled for Canadian guitar hero Jeff Healey, who passed away in March from cancer. Rockers such as Randy Bachman, bluesman David Wilcox, Cream vocalist Jack Bruce, and Deep Purple's Ian Gillan will be among the guests on May 3rd, who will celebrate Healey at Jeff Healey's Roadhouse in Toronto. The next night will honor Healey's contribution to classic jazz as a DJ and player in groups such as Jeff Healey's Jazz Wizards. The door from both shows will be donated to Daisy's Eye Cancer Fund and the Healey Family Trust. And now over to a special report. Bands are waging war. Local Toronto acts are competing for some recognition and hoping to put money in their pocket. Robert Roman Dwyer ventured into the battlefield of Batella Rockstar on January 30th.
Healey's Roadhouse turns into a boxing ring every Wednesday. As crowds cheer, bands duke it out song for song. Sons and Lovers went up against the Primitive Evolution, and in the second round, Obsidian went up against Barry the Poet. 3 Canadian music industry professionals acted as judges. Our Lady Peace drummer Jeremy Taggart, Juno Award-winning producer Gavin Brown, and jam music writer Karen Bliss. Sons and Lovers easily claimed the first round. The group's stage presence won over Taggart and Brown.
Fancy. Good stuff. Boy, oh boy. They had a few great things. I think they had their own light guy. Is that correct? I was playing the power bar over there with the bass cables. That's a fantastic instrument. Respect to you guys for that.
But Karen Bliss had a tougher time judging the second round.
It's always tough because I don't think either band is ready just yet.
In the end, Obsidian put Barry the Bully in its grave. This isn't the regular set Sons and Lovers usually play. Lead singer Josh Hogan commented on this unusual night.
It's really strange to do Battle of the Band things because music isn't really competitive as it is, so when it's turned into like a competitive sport, it gets a little weird.
The ultimate prize for all this fighting? $25,000. But that's still a couple rounds away. This is Robert Roman Dwyer for CCRN.
And now more entertainment. Would you let a hair rocker into your mansion? Apparently millionaire Ray Saranavard let the Poison frontman Bret Michaels, a VH1 television crew, and an army of babes into his Encino, California mansion to film the next season of Rock of Love, which is The Bachelor with a rock star. Saranavard returned to find most of his house repainted, his lawn nearly dead from neglect, and mysterious holes in the walls and ceilings. Mindless Entertainment, who produced the show, have ponied up $380,000 to cover the damage to the Encino crib, but say they don't know what's up about the walls. Hey, Mozart, what you going to give me for that? Violinist Jim Wallenberg with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra got back his custom-made violin thanks to a good Samaritan and one shrewd street person. Local man Wayne Wolf spotted Wallenberg's custom-made instrument in a homeless woman's shopping cart. The woman relieved Wolf of $35 and a silver ring before he handed over the instrument. The joke's on her, though. Wolf now collects a $1,000 reward posted by Wallenberg for the violin's return. That's your infotainment for this hour. Over to Matt McKay for some deep thoughts.
Thanks, Stephen. Now, unless you've been living in isolation on Warren Jeff's ranch in El Dorado, Texas for the past 2 weeks, you may have noticed the Olympic torch relay has become kind of a big deal. Yesterday in San Francisco, officials were forced to shorten and alter the relay route as they fear disruptions by pro-Tibetan protesters, similar to those in London and Paris. Supporters for Tibet have come out in the thousands since the Olympic torch was lit back in Greece on March 24th. They say that China's recent violent crackdown in Tibet merely underscores the many human rights violations it continues to commit despite promises of change. China is also under intense criticism for their passive response to the massive killings in Darfur, while they continue to pump oil out of the region. Critics, such as international and Chinese Olympic officials of the protests, respond by saying politics have no place in sports. Well, I say, hear to the protesters for bringing attention to such an important issue as the eyes of the rest of the world to watch as these events unfold. This is, of course, assuming you're not watching from China on state TV, which undoubtedly has been censoring all protests. The Olympic flame has always symbolized world peace, equality, and love among all. China's occupation of Tibet, the United States' invasion of Iraq, genocide in Darfur. People have tried for years to bring attention to these and many other unjust acts that are still being committed in the world today. Unfortunately, the countries that have the power to bring about change are usually the ones directly responsible for all the problems to begin with. And now when one of those responsible asks for a favor, they expect the rest of the world to act like dogs and roll over and obey. One of the slogans of the Olympic Games is "The world is watching." China is beginning to feel the sting of that fact as they are beginning to find out the Olympics can be both a gift and a curse. Maybe Beijing getting the Olympics might have been a good thing after all. And now from rants to refugees. According to the United Nations, the number of people displaced by environmentally related causes outnumbers those resulting from warfare. Ecology experts are calling these people environmental refugees, and our very own Stephen Humphrey reports.
The eucalyptus groves in Brazil.
An audience at St. Barnabas Church in Toronto view a documentary called Refugees from the Blue Planet, which introduces the concept of environmental refugees. Stephen Sharper, a University of Toronto professor with degrees in both religion and environmental studies, presents the film with his own comments on the subject, which he knows very well, through his own humanitarian work with church groups in South America.
We were aware early on that folks from El Salvador, for example, from the Dominican Republic, from Haiti, can be considered, by and large, environmental refugees. owing to rapid deforestation and destruction of ecosystems.
The UN announced in 2003 that for the first time in history there were more refugees because of climate-related causes than warfare.
I think all the experts would agree that we're going to be seeing a lot more of environmental refugees.
Keith Stewart from the World Wildlife Fund is used to working with aid groups such as CARE and Oxfam.
Development groups are realizing that climate change threatens to wipe out all the gains that have been made from every project that they've ever done.
United Nations University predicts that by 2010 there will be as many as 50 million environmental refugees. This is Stephen Humphrey for On Demand Radio.
And speaking of Stephen Humphrey, let's kick it over to him for a final word.
Thank you, Matt. That's News on Demand for the top of the hour. More news at 10:30. Peace out.